a shocking question opens the story. What if human meat became so popular that ordinary people willingly paid premium prices to eat it, without knowing what it really was? In the heart of France, thousands of customers gather outside a small neighborhood butcher shop. The line stretches down the street because the owner, Vincent, sells a mysterious kind of meat unlike anything anyone has ever tasted. People happily pay outrageous prices just to get a small piece, and the shop becomes the city's biggest sensation almost overnight. When curious customers ask where the meat comes from, Vincent calmly tells them it's a rare breed of Iranian pork, something almost impossible to find anywhere else. The explanation sounds convincing, and the rumor spreads through the city like wildfire. The longer the lines become, the more people believe they must try it for themselves. Ironically, just a few weeks earlier, Vincent's business was on the verge of collapse. He and his wife, Sophie, owned a traditional butcher shop that barely attracted any customers. Vincent took great pride in preparing every cut of meat with extraordinary care, believing that proper handling improved its flavor. Unfortunately, customers saw his methods as strange rather than impressive. Most people only visited because the shop was empty, allowing them to avoid waiting in long lines elsewhere. As if poor business wasn't enough, the couple constantly faced attacks from a group of radical vegan activists who wanted every meat shop in the neighborhood shut down. They regularly vandalized the store, destroyed property, and covered Sophie in animal blood during protests. One day, Vincent managed to see the face of one attacker after pulling off his mask, but surrounded by so many protesters, there was nothing he could do. The repeated attacks pushed the business deeper into debt and placed enormous pressure on their marriage. Hoping for a break from their problems, Vincent and Sophie visited their friends, Mark and Stephanie. Unlike Vincent, Mark owned several successful butcher shops and lived a comfortable, luxurious life. During dinner, he proudly talked about his expanding business and revealed that one of his stores alone earned nearly $100,000 every month. For Vincent and Sophie, who were struggling just to survive, every word felt like another painful reminder of their own failure. Later, Sophie privately confessed to Stephanie that their marriage had become increasingly strained because the business was falling apart. Instead of offering comfort, Stephanie suggested Sophie deserved someone more successful. She proudly showed off expensive gifts from her husband and asked what Vincent had ever given her recently, even something as simple as flowers. To Sophie, it sounded less like advice and more like humiliation. Before they left, Mark learned about the repeated attacks on Vincent's shop. Wanting to help, he handed Vincent a rifle, not to use, but simply to scare away anyone who tried to vandalize the store again until proper security could be installed. Vincent hesitated, explaining that he wasn't even licensed to use it. Mark simply smiled. They don't have to know that. On the drive home, the silence between Vincent and Sophie said everything. Financial pressure had created a growing distance between them, and Sophie had even begun thinking about divorce. Neither of them realized that before the next day ended, one tragic accident would change their lives forever and set them on a path they could never escape. The next day, while driving through the city, Vincent suddenly spotted one of the same vegan activists who had repeatedly attacked his butcher shop. The anger he had been carrying for months immediately resurfaced. He decided to confront the man and scare him into never returning. But in a split second, everything went horribly wrong. During the confrontation, the activist was accidentally struck by Vincent's vehicle. The impact proved fatal. Vincent and Sophie rushed out of the car in complete shock. Neither of them had intended for this to happen. Panicked, Vincent wanted to call the police and explain that it had been an accident, but Sophie stopped him. From her perspective, the situation looked impossible to defend. They had a long history of conflict with the activists, and there was a rifle inside their vehicle that Mark had recently given Vincent. She feared the police would assume they had deliberately hunted the man down. Desperate to avoid prison, Sophie suggested getting rid of the body before anyone discovered what had happened. Although Vincent was horrified by the idea, fear clouded his judgment, and he reluctantly agreed. They transported the body back to their butcher shop after closing hours. Inside the empty store, Vincent began the grim task of cutting the body into smaller pieces so they could dispose of it without attracting attention. Every moment weighed heavily on his conscience, and he struggled emotionally with what he was doing. At one point, a small piece accidentally fell onto the floor, where the family's dog quickly grabbed it. Surprisingly, the dog eagerly wanted more. Vincent ignored it at first, but eventually tossed over another small piece just to keep the animal away while he continued working. After hours of exhausting work, Vincent became completely drained and eventually fell asleep inside the shop. The following morning, he woke up late. As he looked around the preparation table, he immediately realized something was missing. The processed meat he had left there the previous night had disappeared. Alarmed, he rushed to Sophie and asked where it had gone. Confused, Sophie replied that she had assumed it was ordinary pork prepared for customers. Without thinking twice, she had mixed it with the rest of the inventory and placed it on sale when the shop opened. Before Vincent could even react, a customer entered the store asking for the exact same meat she had purchased earlier. She couldn't stop talking about how incredible it tasted and wanted to buy more. Vincent froze. He finally understood what had happened. Without realizing it, they had unknowingly sold human meat to a customer. Horrified, Vincent refused to sell anymore. But Sophie looked at the situation differently. Since the damage had already been done and no one suspected anything, she believed panicking would only make things worse. Trying to hide the truth, Vincent invented a story on the spot. He told the customer it was an extremely rare variety of Iranian pork, available only through a special supplier. The explanation sounded believable. The customer happily accepted it and left the shop. Moments later, another customer arrived, asking for the same mysterious meat, then another and another. Within hours, word had spread throughout the neighborhood. Without either of them planning it, the accidental sale had transformed their failing butcher shop into the most talked-about meat store in the city. Neither Vincent nor Sophie could have imagined that this single mistake was only the beginning of something far bigger and far more dangerous. Over the next few days, demand for the so-called Iranian pork exploded across the city. Customers traveled from different neighborhoods just to experience the mysterious meat everyone was talking about. Long lines formed outside Vincent's butcher shop from the moment the doors opened each morning, and every batch sold out almost instantly. For the first time in years, Vincent and Sophie were finally making real money. Their struggling business had become an overnight success. Yet behind the growing profits, Vincent couldn't stop thinking about the truth. He couldn't understand why people were so obsessed with the flavor. Curious and conflicted, he eventually decided to taste a small sample himself. The moment he did, he understood why customers kept returning. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced. That realization disturbed him even more. Sophie then pointed out something she believed explained the difference. The man whose body had accidentally been sold was a committed vegan who had spent years avoiding meat and animal products. To her, that lifestyle might have been the reason the meat tasted so unique. She took the idea even further. If customers loved it this much, she argued, they could deliberately target vegan activists, secretly process the bodies, and continue selling the meat as their famous Iranian pork. Their financial problems would disappear forever. Vincent was stunned. He immediately rejected the idea. No amount of money, he insisted, was worth sacrificing their humanity. What had happened was already a terrible accident, and he refused to turn it into a business. For a moment, it seemed the discussion was over. Soon afterward, their daughter Chloe came home with her boyfriend Lucas, so Vincent prepared an elaborate family dinner. He had been looking forward to meeting him and wanted to make a good impression. But as soon as the meal was served, Lucas politely declined every dish. Vincent soon discovered that Lucas was also a strict vegan. Trying to be accommodating, Vincent offered vegetables instead. Lucas refused because they had been prepared alongside meat. Then Sophie offered him cake. He declined again after learning it contained eggs. Even Chloe chose not to eat and eventually left with Lucas. Watching the carefully prepared dinner go untouched deeply frustrated Vincent. After everything he had done, he felt completely rejected. For the first time, Sophie's earlier argument began echoing in his mind. That night, the couple drove past a popular vegan restaurant. Inside, dozens of people were enjoying dinner together. Sophie quietly observed the crowd before pointing toward a strong, healthy-looking restaurant owner. She suggested he would make a better target than the frail people sitting nearby. Her proposal was simple. If they went through with it, they could solve all of their financial problems. Vincent reluctantly approached the man, hiding a butcher's cleaver beneath his coat. He moved closer, raised his hand, then suddenly froze. His body refused to cooperate. Unable to cross the line, Vincent turned around and walked away without harming anyone. Back in the car, Sophie sighed. "It's not courage you're missing," she said. "You just haven't gotten used to it yet." The next day, Vincent and Sophie decide on a different strategy. Instead of confronting anyone directly, they blend into a gathering of vegan activists, pretending to support the movement. Surrounded by hundreds of people, they quietly observe the crowd, hoping to find someone who appears isolated and easy to approach. Throughout the day, they listen as activists criticize butchers and condemn anyone involved in the meat industry. Sophie stays silent at first, but after hearing constant insults, her patience finally runs out. She argues back, shocking Vincent, who wasn't expecting her to lose control so quickly. Not long afterward, they meet a friendly young activist who warmly welcomes them and thanks them for supporting the cause. Sophie immediately sees an opportunity. Using conversation as an excuse, they guide him toward a quieter parking area. Away from the crowd, they begin discussing how they might carry out their plan. Before they can do anything, they discover the young man isn't alone. Several friends are waiting nearby. Realizing the risk, Vincent quietly puts everything away and prepares to leave. Just then, The group invites them to join an upcoming protest against a local butcher shop. Refusing would make them look suspicious, so Vincent and Sophie reluctantly agree. When they arrive at the location, Vincent is stunned. The target isn't a random butcher shop. It's Mark's successful business. For a brief moment, Sophie hesitates. Mark and Stephanie have been close friends for years, and she isn't comfortable taking part. Vincent feels differently. The jealousy he's carried for so long begins to take over. As the protest turns destructive, the shop suffers heavy damage. Vincent allows his anger to guide him, taking satisfaction in watching the business that once made him feel inferior fall into chaos. For the first time in a long while, he feels as though someone else is experiencing the same pain he has lived with. But the growing tension between Vincent and Sophie starts creating new problems. They argue over what they've become and where this path is leading. The disagreement grows so intense that Vincent walks away, leaving Sophie behind. While she's alone, a friendly young man approaches and starts a casual conversation. He offers to drive her home, and Sophie accepts. Everything seems harmless until she discovers that he's also a vegan. The moment she learns that, she begins looking at him very differently. Pretending to be interested in him, Sophie convinces him to come inside the house. Then she quietly tells Vincent that another opportunity has arrived. Vincent knows exactly what she's asking him to do. But once again, when the decisive moment comes, fear overwhelms him. He simply cannot bring himself to cross that line. Sophie tries to provoke him, hoping jealousy and emotion will finally push him into action. And this time, it works. Overcome by jealousy and emotion, Vincent finally snaps. He confronts the young man, and in the chaos that follows, the situation turns fatal. By the time Vincent realizes what has happened, there is no way to undo it. Just then, they hear someone arriving. Their daughter, Chloe, walks through the door. Trying to stay calm, Vincent quickly cleans himself up while Sophie discreetly hides all signs of what has happened. Chloe reveals that she has argued with Lucas. Lucas believes that because she comes from a butcher's family, she can never truly understand his values. Heartbroken, Chloe wants to spend the night with her parents, but Vincent knows they can't let her stay. Making up an excuse, he convinces her to go and reconcile with Lucas instead. Once she leaves, Vincent and Sophie spend the rest of the night removing every trace of the incident. The following morning, Stephanie calls Sophie in tears. Mark's butcher shop has been devastated after the recent protest. Vincent and Sophie rush over, pretending to know nothing about what happened. Looking at the damage, even Vincent is surprised by how far everything has gone. While they're there, a police officer quietly asks Vincent to step aside. Vincent's heart sinks. He expects questions about the recent disappearances. Instead, the officer has something completely different on his mind. He wants to know more about the famous Iranian pork because customers can't stop talking about it. He even asks if Vincent would consider supplying some for a special recipe. Relieved, Vincent realizes the investigation isn't focused on him. Business soon reaches another level. Long lines form outside the shop every single day, and the mysterious meat sells out almost immediately. With demand growing faster than ever, Vincent and Sophie begin living the comfortable lifestyle they once dreamed about. But success comes at a price. As supplies run low, Vincent feels trapped by the expectations of his customers. Every time inventory disappears, he knows he'll have to find another way to keep the business running. His life slowly transforms into a never-ending cycle of protecting the secret behind the shop's incredible success. Within just a few weeks, even raising prices doesn't reduce the crowds. People continue waiting for hours, willing to pay almost anything for another taste. The small butcher shop that once struggled to survive has become the most talked about business in the city. And Vincent is beginning to realize that escaping the truth may be far more difficult than creating it. As the shop's popularity reaches new heights, Vincent faces a problem he never imagined. The meat sells out almost as soon as the doors open. Customers keep coming back, the lines grow longer every day, and demand shows no sign of slowing down. With inventory running low again, Vincent feels trapped by the success he once dreamed of. Desperate to keep the business alive, he sets out to find another source. Using the excuse of discussing a future protest against a butcher shop, Vincent arranges to meet a young vegan activist named Vinny in a quiet wooded area. Vinny arrives believing he's helping a good cause, but the meeting is nothing like he expected. The moment Vincent reaches for his disguise, Vinny realizes something is wrong and immediately runs. A frantic chase follows through the forest. Overwhelmed by panic and exhaustion, Vinny suddenly collapses before Vincent can even reach him. Shaken by what has happened, Vincent and Sophie once again find themselves dealing with the consequences of another tragic incident. Meanwhile, their financial problems seem to disappear. The business is thriving, and for the first time in years, they begin enjoying the kind of comfortable lifestyle they once envied in Mark and Stephanie. When Vincent meets Mark again, the conversation feels completely different. Instead of looking defeated, Vincent finally speaks with confidence. As everyone enjoys dinner together, something unexpected interrupts the evening. Mark notices a small metal object hidden inside the meat. Stephanie, who who previously worked as a nurse, immediately recognizes it as part of a medical device used by certain heart patients. The discovery instantly reminds Vincent of Vinny. He realizes one critical detail was overlooked. Stephanie begins asking uncomfortable questions. The atmosphere changes immediately. What starts as curiosity quickly turns into a heated argument between the two longtime friends. Old jealousy, buried resentment, and growing suspicion all come rushing to the surface. The confrontation ends with their friendship completely falling apart. Neither man leaves the evening the same way he arrived. Vincent walks away knowing a single mistake may have created a trail that someone could eventually follow. And for the first time since his business became successful, he begins to fear that his secret may not stay buried forever. After his friendship with Mark falls apart, Vincent can no longer enjoy the success he worked so hard to achieve. The small mistake at dinner keeps replaying in his mind. He realizes that one overlooked detail could expose everything. A short time later, Vincent visits a large vegan festival. But instead of enjoying the event, he feels completely disconnected from the people around him. His thoughts are consumed by the secret he has been carrying. Every face in the crowd reminds him of the dangerous path he has chosen. At one point, he notices a child nearby. For a brief moment, a disturbing thought crosses his mind, but he immediately fights it back. Deep inside, Vincent realizes he is becoming someone he never wanted to be. Before leaving the festival, he unexpectedly runs into Lucas. Lucas is surprised to see a butcher attending a vegan event. Trying to ease the tension, Vincent explains that not every butcher is the same. He says his family runs a small business simply to make an honest living, not for wealth or status. The conversation soon shifts to a much darker subject. Lucas mentions the growing number of missing vegan activists in the city. The disappearances have become so frequent that many people now suspect someone is deliberately targeting them. Vincent calmly argues that people shouldn't accuse an entire profession without evidence. Nearby, another activist quietly overhears the entire conversation. He's the same person who had previously seen Vincent pretending to support the vegan movement. Watching Vincent deny everything makes him increasingly suspicious. That night, while Vincent is working inside the shop, someone knocks on the front door. His heart immediately starts racing. Through the window, he notices a police officer outside. Afraid that the investigation has finally reached him, Vincent refuses to open the door and tries to make excuses from inside. Then everything nearly falls apart. His dog suddenly appears carrying something that should never have been seen. Vincent reacts instantly, rushing to stop the dog before the officer notices. After several tense moments, disaster is narrowly avoided. Once the officer leaves, Vincent tells Sophie that the police have started paying much closer attention to the city's butcher shops. Sophie remains surprisingly calm. She believes there's nothing to worry about because every trace of their activities has already disappeared. As they're discussing what to do next, Lucas unexpectedly arrives. He apologizes for the way he behaved during the festival and admits that the recent disappearances have left him emotionally exhausted. Vincent accepts the apology, but Sophie sees something entirely different. She quietly tells Vincent that Lucas is standing alone, completely unaware of the danger around him. To her, this looks like the perfect opportunity. Vincent looks at Lucas, then at Sophie, and realizes the two of them are no longer thinking like the same people. As Lucas stands in their home, completely unaware of Sophie's intentions, she quietly urges Vincent to take advantage of the moment. She believes an opportunity like this may never come again. Vincent freezes. For the first time, he realizes just how far Sophie has changed. The woman who once worried about losing their struggling business now seems consumed by profit and ambition. Without another word, Vincent tells Lucas to leave immediately. Confused but grateful, Lucas thanks them for their hospitality and walks away, never realizing how close he came to disaster. The moment the door closes, Sophie explodes with frustration. She can't understand why Vincent would let such a perfect opportunity disappear. To her, emotions have become a weakness. To Vincent, they're the last reminder that he's still human. The argument between them grows more intense than ever before. The following morning, Vincent makes a decision that changes everything. Without discussing it with Sophie, he walks into the shop and announces to the waiting customers that they will no longer be selling the famous Iranian pork. The reaction is immediate. People who had been standing in line for hours are furious. Many refuse to believe the product is gone, while others leave the shop disappointed and angry. Within minutes, the once crowded store is nearly empty. Sophie is stunned. She demands to know why Vincent would destroy the business they sacrificed everything to build. But Vincent doesn't answer. Instead, he quietly walks out of the shop, leaving Sophie alone with the consequences of his decision. Not long after he leaves, a group of men disguised as vegan activists storms into the store. Unlike the protesters from before, these men aren't interested in making a statement. They're there for revenge. The shop is torn apart, and Sophie finds herself trapped with no way to escape. At that exact moment, Vincent returns. The instant he realizes what's happening, he rushes inside without hesitation. A desperate struggle breaks out inside the butcher shop. Vincent manages to fight back, but the attackers overpower him and leave him hanging helplessly. Just when it seems all hope is lost, Sophie refuses to give up. Drawing on every bit of courage she has left, she turns the tables and helps stop the final attacker. The danger finally passes, but by now, the damage is irreversible. The choices Vincent and Sophie made over the past few months have created consequences they can no longer escape. And somewhere beyond the walls of their shop, the truth is getting closer. Although Vincent and Sophie survived the attack, their nightmare is far from over. The violence draws even more attention to their butcher shop, and the walls that once protected their secret begin to close in around them. Meanwhile, Mark and Stephanie can't stop thinking about everything they've witnessed over the past few weeks. The strange behavior, the mysterious Iranian pork, and most importantly, the unusual object Stephanie discovered inside the meat. The more they investigate, the less Vincent's story makes sense. They search for any evidence that such a product actually exists. But no matter where they look, they can't find a single reliable source confirming the existence of Iranian pork. At that moment, their suspicions turn into certainty. Believing something is seriously wrong, they contact the police and share everything they know. The investigation quickly gains momentum. As detectives begin connecting the disappearances with Vincent's business, the evidence starts pointing in one direction. Before long, Vincent and Sophie are arrested. The shocking truth finally comes to light. Investigators conclude that over the course of 3 months, the couple was responsible for the disappearance and deaths of dozens of people while hiding everything behind their wildly successful butcher shop. The entire city is left stunned. Customers who once stood in line for hours now struggle to accept what they've been buying. News of the case spreads everywhere, transforming the small butcher shop into the center of one of the country's biggest criminal investigations. Eventually, Vincent and Sophie stand before the court to hear their sentence. The judge asks them one final question. Do you regret what you've done? The courtroom falls silent. Their answer surprises everyone. Instead of expressing remorse for the crimes themselves, they admit they regret only one mistake. They should have removed the medical device that exposed their secret. That single oversight led investigators directly to them. With that final revelation, the story reaches its unsettling conclusion. A tale that began with a struggling family business ends as a chilling reminder of how greed, desperation, and one bad decision can slowly destroy everything. Story comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed this movie. Thanks for watching.